This is Tyrannosaurus rex, not the film version, the animal that actually existed. It never roared. The sound from Jurassic Park, one of cinema's most recognizable effects, was built by sound designers from a baby elephant's bellow, a tiger's snarl, an alligator's gurgle, and a Jack Russell Terrier's growl. The result was effective for film. It is not supported by the paleontological evidence. Birds are living dinosaurs, the direct descendants of theropods, the group that includes T-Rex. In 2016, paleontologist Julia Clarke at the University of Texas at Austin published a paper in Nature reporting the first fossilized syrinx ever recovered from the fossil record. It belonged to Vegavis iaai, a late Cretaceous bird from Antarctica. Analysis confirmed the animal would have produced a call similar to a modern goose. The syrinx is the vocal organ birds use to produce all of their calls. It sits at the base of the trachea, deep in the chest. No syrinx has ever been found in a non-avian dinosaur. Not in T-Rex, not in Triceratops, not in Spinosaurus, not in any specimen recovered to date. Without a syrinx, T-Rex almost certainly did not vocalize the way birds do. Its closest vocal analogs are crocodilians, the other surviving branch of the archosaur lineage. Crocodilians do not open their mouths to produce sound. They keep them shut. Closed mouth vocalization works by inflating the esophagus or tracheal pouches while the mouth remains shut, pushing air through the larynx. The result is a low, resonant, percussive output. Ostriches use this mechanism. Cassowaries use it. Large saltwater crocodiles use it. The sound produced does not carry in a directional beam. It spreads, traveling through air and ground simultaneously. Applied to a chest cavity the size of a compact car, driven by the lung capacity of a 9-ton animal, that mechanism would not produce a roar in the conventional sense. It would produce a pressure event, a low-frequency output below or at the edge of what many animals in its environment could consciously register. Infrasound is sound with a frequency below 20 Hz, 20 cycles per second. That threshold is the lower boundary of typical human hearing. Below it, the ear stops registering the signal as sound. The pressure wave continues to exist. The physics continue to apply. The energy moves through air and ground whether it is perceived as sound or not. At sufficient intensity, infrasound affects the body without being perceived as noise. Researchers studying human exposure to strong infrasound have documented nausea, disorientation, chest pressure, and, at higher levels, vibration of internal structures. The eyeballs have a resonant frequency near 18 Hz. Certain hollow spaces in the chest respond to similar frequencies. This has been proposed as a contributing factor in reports from people who describe physical unease in buildings located near persistent low-frequency machinery, felt without being identified. Tiger vocalizations contain infrasound components at 18 Hz and below. Researchers have proposed that this component produces a brief disorientation in prey animals before the strike. Not a sound they process consciously, but a sensation that disrupts normal response. T-Rex, given its body size and the physics involved, almost certainly produced infrasound. A 9-ton animal respiring generates low-frequency vibration through body mechanics alone. A deliberate closed-mouth vocalization from that anatomy would have produced frequencies no animal in its ecosystem had evolved to consciously process, because nothing in that ecosystem had survived long enough encounters with T-Rex to develop the response. Olfaction was the first sensory layer. The olfactory bulbs of T-Rex were the largest, proportionally, of any known meat-eating dinosaur. A 2021 study published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B, which combined olfactory bulb size data from fossil endocasts with genomic data from living birds, estimated T-Rex had 620 to 645 functional olfactory receptor genes. That range is comparable to a wolf or a turkey vulture. Turkey vultures can locate a carcass by scent from over a kilometer away. T-Rex used this capacity across its territory, tracking the direction of movement, the recency of passage, and the identity of animals it could not yet see or hear. Large territory predators operate this way. Leopards patrolling hundreds of square kilometers of African bush construct a continuous scent map of their range. The second sensory layer was seismic. A 2022 study published in the Journal of Theoretical Biology, conducted by Ernesto Blanco and colleagues at the University of the Republic in Uruguay, modeled the seismic wave patterns generated by T-Rex. The finding was that the seismic waves generated by T-Rex stepping were weakest in the forward direction. Within roughly 25 meters of a target, the seismic signature of T-Rex's approach remained effectively constant, meaning the approaching animal's footstep produced no escalating vibration signal ahead of it. The researchers described this as seismic wave camouflage. Elephants detect seismic communication from other herds at distances up to 32 kilometers, transmitted through the ground and received through the sensitive pads of their feet and through bone conduction directly to the middle ear. T-Rex, with its large padded feet and 9-ton frame, was both generating and potentially reading ground vibration, tracking the footstep of other large animals in its environment, while its own approach registered minimally for prey animals ahead of it. The third sensory layer was visual. Kent Stevens, applying perimetry analysis to T-Rex skull reconstructions, found a binocular visual range of 55 degrees, wider than that of a modern hawk. Visual acuity was estimated 13 times that of a human, exceeding the documented acuity of a bald eagle. The estimated distance at which T-Rex could distinguish an object from background was 6 kilometers. Taken together, scent range sufficient to track prey direction across a kilometer, seismic sensitivity capable of detecting large animals through ground vibration, footstep that produced minimal seismic signal ahead of the animal, vision that resolved objects at 6 kilometers, and vocalization, when it occurred, that delivered a low-frequency pressure output below the threshold of conscious auditory processing in prey species. T-Rex did not dominate its ecosystem only as a fully grown adult. It dominated it across its entire developmental lifespan through a mechanism that has no equivalent among modern predators. In the late Jurassic, approximately 150 million years ago, carnivore communities were ecologically layered. Small hunters occupied the lower niches. Medium-bodied predators like ceratops occupied intermediate roles. Large apex predators like Allosaurus and Torvosaurus held the top. Species diversity across the size spectrum was high. By the late Cretaceous, in every ecosystem where tyrannosaurs rose to dominance, medium-sized predator diversity had collapsed. A 2021 study by Thomas Holtz at the University of Maryland, published in the Canadian Journal of Earth Sciences, documented this pattern. Mesocarnivore diversity, predators occupying the middle weight range, declined wherever tyrannosaurs became dominant. Prey species diversity did not decline. The prey animals were present. The medium-sized predators that would normally have fed on them were not. Juvenile tyrannosaurs filled that ecological space. T-Rex hatched from eggs weighing under 15 kilograms and took approximately 20 years to reach full adult size of around 9,000 kilograms. That developmental arc produced animals that changed substantially in body form and hunting profile as they aged. Research on juvenile specimens, two animals nicknamed Jane and Petey, studied by Holly Woodward and colleagues, published in Science Advances in 2020, confirmed that juvenile T-Rex were anatomically distinct from adults. They were slender, long-legged, and carried blade-like teeth suited for cutting rather than crushing. Their locomotor profile was closer to a pursuit predator. A 13-year-old T-Rex could already penetrate bone with its bite. As juveniles, they competed directly with the medium-sized predators that would otherwise have occupied those ecological roles. As adults, they could consume those competitors outright. Other mesocarnivores had no sustainable position. They were not simply outcompeted, they were removed from the niche structure entirely. A single T-Rex across its lifespan occupied the functional role of the small carnivore, the medium carnivore, and the apex predator. Through its own population's age distribution, the species held every predator position in the ecosystem simultaneously. The ecological term for this is ontogenetic niche partitioning. In T-Rex, the extent of it exceeded anything documented in the modern fossil record. All of it, the low-frequency sensory output, the seismic detection, the scent mapping, the 6-kilometer visual range, the lifespan-long niche occupation, was a biological architecture built for a specific ecological context. That context required mega-herbivore populations large enough to sustain a single predator species monopolizing every carnivore niche. It required ecosystem stability sufficient to sustain that architecture across tens of millions of years of evolutionary development. The Chicxulub impact, 66 million years ago, ended those conditions in a geologically instantaneous event. The ecosystems that followed were rebuilt under different constraints: smaller prey, more distributed energy, faster recovery cycles, different selective pressures. Speed, chemical weaponry, and cognitive flexibility replaced sustained sensory dominance and mass as the primary competitive advantages. The predators occupying apex positions today are products of that recovery. The tiger's infrasound vocalization evolved in a world that did not yet exist when T-Rex was alive. The elephant's seismic foot sensing evolved 66 million years after T-Rex last walked. No living predator replicates the combination. The eagle holds the visual acuity, but not the mass or olfactory range. The wolf holds the endurance and the scent tracking, but not the bone processing capability. The crocodile holds the ambush mechanism and bite force, but not the territorial range or the seismic camouflage. T-Rex held all of it, operating in parallel across a lifespan that progressively restructured the predator community around it. The conditions that produced it no longer exist. What ended them arrived from outside the solar system 66 million years ago and took less than a day to make those conditions irreversible. T-Rex was not the apex of a food chain. It was the food chain. And the prey it approached heard nothing. They felt it, a pressure they could not locate or name. By the time that sensation was identifiable, the distance had already closed.